We have some pretty big news off the NHL waiver wire. 2 players have been claimed, 2 players have cleared, and we have another player on waivers today. We'll jump into the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, in case you missed yesterday's video, we had 4 NHL players on the waiver wire that we were waiting to find out here at noon Eastern time if they would be claimed or if they'd be clearing waivers or what the status would be. Noon Eastern time just went by a few minutes ago, and we now know where everything stands. Now, 2 players, including Paul Byron of the Montreal Canadiens and Mikhail Grigorenko of the Columbus Blue Jackets, have cleared waivers, so they will be remaining with their franchises. It can be reassigned, and we have Daniel Renew for the Colorado Avalanche on waivers today. Now, the other 2 players are Jimmy Vesey and Anton Forsberg, and they have a new home. The Maple Leafs have lost Vesey through the waiver wire to the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks have put in a claim to take the winger here. Of course, both of these claims are players going from one Canadian team to another. So clearly there was a strategy there for these other Canadian teams, including the Canucks and the Ottawa Senators, who claimed Anton Forsberg, to make claims here so they didn't have players going into quarantine. So obviously that was a really big factor in making that decision. But in the case of Vancouver getting Jimmy Vesey, clearly they're looking for some additional depth at the forward position, some secondary scoring. I can't help but wonder what this might mean for some other players kind of in the bottom 6 roles or players who were been rumored to maybe be traded. I mean, I know they've had a guy like Jace Harlock getting into some games lately. He's actually done okay. Will he be able to continue to stay in the lineup, or will they give Vesey an opportunity over him? Obviously guys like Gaudette and Virtanen have been mentioned a lot in trade rumors this past year. Hard to say. Maybe there's something getting closer on a deal on one of those guys. Hard to say. But they certainly, with the addition of Vesey, will have more than enough capable NHL forwards. It's a matter of who stays in the lineup, who goes to the taxi squad, and do they move somebody else out. Certainly some question marks there for sure with Jim Benning and company, but after a good slide to kind of push them way down in the standings, the Canucks have rebounded pretty well in the last 6 to 7 games and have kind of clawed their way back into the conversation to be fighting for one of those 4 playoff spots. So interesting to see what Benning does over the next few weeks ahead of the deadline. I know there are some, including some Vancouver area writers like Thomas Drance of The Athletic, who feel that Vancouver is not ready to contend, and that no matter what they do, even if they're looking like they're going to get into the playoffs, they should try to sell off some assets that they're not going to need anymore, that they won't be bringing back next year in order to gain any kind of other assets, whether it be young players, draft picks, whatever else, anything they can use for the future to kind of continue building here towards something bigger and better for years to come. But I'm not sure we're going to see that. I think the Canucks believe if they get in the playoffs, anything can happen like we saw last year. So I wouldn't be completely shocked if they do really well in the next week or two and get a little bit closer to being more of a solidified spot, that they might actually make some moves to try to go for it instead. But we will see. They do have their fair share of players that could be moved, like not only the ones I mentioned, but you've also got Brandon Sutter, Jordy Ben. Like, there's other guys that could certainly be moved out because they're coming to the end of their contracts. They're not likely coming back next year, and it could be, if they can find teams to take them, that is, gain some kind of an asset to use for the future. Now, in the case of Anton Forsberg going to the Ottawa Senators, he's one of the goalies this year who's been on the carousel, jumping around a few times here through waivers. Obviously, the Ottawa Senators ran into a situation a couple games back where starter Matt Murray had an issue going into warm-up, didn't know if he could go, decided he couldn't play. Joey Decord went in against the Maple Leafs, got his first ever NHL win and a big 4-3 victory for Ottawa. It was a great game, but clearly they don't want to put too much pressure on the youngster. He then played the next night against Vancouver in a back-to-back, did very well. They lost a 1-goal game in overtime, so the rookie goalie in Decord got him 3 out of 4 points, which is really, something that they should be quite happy with. However, they don't want to continue to put that kind of pressure on him night after night if Murray's going to be out longer term. I mean, besides Murray and Decord, they don't really have anybody else that has much of experience. They do have Marcus Högberg, who I'm not sure how much longer he's going to be out injured, but he doesn't have a ton of experience. Last year was kind of his first year getting any kind of regularity at the NHL level. Then they have Gustafsson, who's really still quite young and developing too. So really, Forsberg just adds an extra layer of insurance. This tells me that maybe the Matt Murray injury is a little bit more serious than they might have originally thought. It didn't seem to be too serious in the beginning, but maybe there's more to it. We'll have to wait for further word from Ottawa, but it certainly sends a signal that they want to have an insurance policy and somebody else there that has a little bit more experience so that Joey Daccord doesn't have to play all the time. I mean, he's done really well, but they don't want to run into a situation where his confidence gets wrecked because the kid has been on fire lately. He could be the goalie of the future for them, and they need to make sure that he is well looked after and has enough support around him. So, interesting claims today. Of course, like I said, neither player will have to quarantine, which is a big part of why these claims were made when they were. Now, we know from the Maple Leafs perspective that we talked about last night in our video, looking at some trade rumors, that they're certainly in the market to make some forward upgrades was the primary things we were looking at. So I wonder if losing Vesey might actually accelerate Kyle Dubas here. But at the same time, we know that the Leafs don't have a heavy schedule the next week to 10 days, and it would be a prime time for them to make a move soon here so that if they do have to have a player go into isolation coming from the U.S., they won't miss nearly as many games as they would normally. So let me know your thoughts on these moves and we'll discuss further. We'll likely be back later with another video depending if there's additional news or rumors or whatever else takes place today. It's been a fairly busy news cycle so far, so we'll see what else comes up on this day, St. Patrick's Day. Have a great St. Patrick's Day, everybody, and I'll catch you all next time.